Hey, Alan, how do I change it to my name? I don't know why it says owner.
Oh gosh. You have to, well, it depends on what device you're on. I'm on my phone, so it's in like,
I'm on my computer.
I
Maybe
don't
the other techie might know.
know.
In the upper right corner, you've got three dots. You click on that and scroll down until
Hide self. Jeez.
Is it under yours is called iPad or who's iPad?
Mine's
Oh, yours
called
is
owner.
I can change your name. Oh, what shall I change it to?
Ah, how does
Roberto.
that? Okay, that works. Thank you. Hey, I was Roberto last week at Panama, so I'll go with that this week too.
Oh, let's see. Who else's name should I change?
Are you full self-driving?
No, I'm in the passenger seat. I'm not. I mean, Jimmy is. Jimmy's driving. No, I know.
Jimmy's your
Dude,
full self-driving?
yeah, yeah. No, that would be. It might be bad press for Tesla if you were on a city commission meeting.
You know, in Atlanta, if you look for Uber, my daughter was telling me about 70% of the time you get a driverless car. And if you cancel that or don't take it, they don't charge you. But if you don't on the other ones, they do. And they're everywhere. I mean, the driverless cars are everywhere there.
Yeah,
It was kind of a trip.
we used one in San Francisco, the WAMU or Waymo or whatever, and
Hmm.
it was impressive. Uh, and honestly a little apprehensive initially, but after a while it's kind of nice. There's just in the car versus having to ride with some stranger. Whose iPad?
It's iPad 2.
Yeah, whose iPad too? Is that Nevin?
Could be.
I saw DC Reeves today, Alan.
Yeah,
Hey,
what he say?
Yeah. Yeah, he's just chatting. We were at lunch together
hey
over here.
guys,
Um,
Yeah, it's Nevin.
it's Nevin.
Should change his name to Nevin.
Yeah, instead of iPad 2.
I got you.
I like your sunroof there, Alan.
Yeah, it's got the most of Teslas have this thing. I'm not
Uh,
driving. Jimmy's driving. Are we waiting on Mr. Hayes?
there he
Hey,
is.
not anymore. So, well, hello everybody. Who is Roberto? Oh,
Roberto.
Commissioner, is that what you'd like to be called now? Oh, you're muted, Commissioner Roberto. Yeah. All
that's what
right.
the
Well,
mayor named him.
okay. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. First off, anyone that may be watching that was looking to the property disposition and stuff. I believe that a small number of folks might have heard about that from CRA staff, but that will be the next virtual meeting. I did send an email about that. I'm hoping I didn't get any objections, so we do plan tomorrow morning to move that to the fourth Monday so that Commissioner Lucas and I can be a part of the property discussion. Her and I will be unavailable that third week because of the National League of Cities annual conference. But so if you are looking to that, that will be later in the month. So you can visit panamacity.gov to stay apprised of that. So we are very excited, Mayor and Commissioners, about the restoration of the Martin Theater and also the renaissance of both the Ritz and the Tennessee House, and what that's going to mean for our generation or for our city for another multiple generations to come, another 90 to 100 years for a theater that's already at 90 years old. So as a lot of y'all have said over the last many months, that when we get ready to go out for the RFP or request for proposals, you'll hear us say that a lot this evening. For a management company to come in and operate it, that's one thing that y'all have all been clear about both just a commission and the last one, is that we do believe that we should bring in an outside professional firm to operate the Ritz, the Martin Theater, and the Tennessee House. And so that is the purpose of this discussion tonight. And again, it's still a draft. Our goal is in the next 2 or 3 weeks to have that RFP go out. We will have it out for 90 days. I'm sorry, 60 days. I apologize. 60 days. And to give people, normally we would do it for 30 days, but we're going to do this for 60 days. But I did, because time is of the essence. We really want to have whoever that successful respondent is, we really want to have them in front of y'all at the early part of the summer of this year, in order for them to really be in place in enough time to set us up for success for next summer. So we've got Keith Meyerl here, who is, as you know, the Parks, Culture, and Recreation Director. And this is the RFP that his team is lead on, because this is something that's come out of his department. And of course, we have Mr. Sean Self, our logistics director, on, who's over purchasing, and they're the team that works with the department, regardless of the department's putting out an invitation to bid or an RFP. They work with, they're kind of that glue that holds everything together for, working with legal, working with the department, and then purchasing ultimately puts it online. So I've asked Keith to kind of give just a quick overview here in a second of kind of what they've done, and we're available to answer any questions about the process. I did want to state, though, just to be clear, Nevin, I don't believe that anything that we're going to discuss tonight, or feedback and input we're going to get from the elected officials, would do anything to preclude anybody down the road from responding to this RFP or give anybody any type of unfair advantage. Getting feedback from numerous staff and direction of something of this magnitude from the commission, I believe, is perfectly appropriate. But if you could just speak to that for the public's sake, I know that a couple of the officials would appreciate that, sir.
Okay, that is exactly correct. First of all, there probably would be a cone of silence once the RFP is actually on the street. And at that time, the appropriate person to talk to would be Mr. Sean Self or me or Keith. But that will be listed in the request for proposal, who the contact person is. Until then, all comments are welcome and accepted by commissioners, by citizens, by somebody who thinks they might want to participate in the RFP process. So that's where we are today. So all comments are welcome, all comments are fine, and nothing would prohibit somebody from coming and making a proposal at a later date, even though they comment at this time.
All right, and thank you, Mr. Zimmerman. And I'm now going to turn it over to Mr. Meyerl, who again is over the department that is the one putting this RFP out. And just as a reminder, Mr. Meyerl has well over 25 years experience working in various parks and recreation departments around the country, around the Eastern U.S. And so he's done this many times for a multitude of facilities and structures inside of both municipalities and counties. So Keith, if you'll just give us kind of a rundown of what you've done. And we have gotten feedback from a couple of you already, and we'll talk through some of that tonight, and we hope to get additional feedback from some of the others. So, Mr. Meyerl?
Sure, I appreciate it, and appreciate the commissioners that have replied back to the with some edits already. Those will be incorporated. But generally, the project is that we're looking for an operator to be a full service operator. They're going to manage, staff, operate, program the theater. And the scope of the RFP talks about each of those elements, programming, maintenance, security, back office operations, as well as marketing, ticketing, and customer service, and food and beverage. So this operator will be the full service operator for each of those elements. The RFP speaks to each of those areas specifically. And when we are looking at the RFP as a whole, we'll do a grading system as it relates to certain elements that will make up a grade for each of the responses from each of the bidders. So that's Commissioner Street presented some as well, and I really like some of the ones that you presented, so thank you for that. And Commissioner Granger, thank you for some of the ones that you put in for some of these elements as well. So we'll continue to work on this and kind of tweak it with your elements into the RFP. So
yeah. So
Can I ask
Go
a
ahead.
question?
yeah, Commissioner Hughes, go ahead, sir.
So I've never been to an RFP. And so when you are saying you're adding in how to grade,
Yes.
what is an example that y'all submitted to come up with a grade? Can you give me some examples, please?
Yep. What we actually, let me find those pages here.
I actually have I'm happy to share my screen too and go to any page. If anybody would like that, just let me know.
Well, it's, some of those, we grade it to 100 points, just like you would do a test. You have a guaranteed compensation to the city, revenue share, their financial projections and assumptions, a specific plan of service and operations, experience of the firm and their similar performance at other venues, organizational capacity and stability. So those elements would have a particular percentage that they would get number of points for, and then that would be graded up to 100, and the highest most responsive bidder in those categories would be considered to be the operator.
Can we have that sheet so I know what it looks like? Is that possible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
It was in the RFP. It was in the back of probably page 40, but yes, we'll make sure you get that.
All right, thank you.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor.
So there was already, I must have missed the email. Well, there was an email sent that had a draft RFP already.
There was, yes, sir. Maybe end of last week, maybe middle of last week. I sent it out, and there was soliciting feedback on it, and the RFP, and then there was what was the supplemental document?
It was just a description of the Martin Theater.
Oh, a description of the Martin Theater itself.
Yep.
So
Okay.
I will go back in there and re-forward that, Mr.
please do.
Mayor, before I leave here this evening.
Is it appropriate in the RFP to sort of have the metrics of what kinds of events we want to be there, or like a product mix? Oh, we want to see X nights for community theater and X days for Disney movies or
WWE.
Yeah, yeah, totally. Is that already in there? My apologies for not seeing the document, or should that be in there?
Yeah, there is a programming component. It's not specific to that degree. Giving those who present the opportunity to make those determinations in their proposal. But we could say, for example, these are some of the elements that we would like. But down to the actual number, and one of the things we thought too, do we want to include a specific number of city sponsored events for the theater? So
and we're kind of touching on what one of the horror stories, or when these sort of go bad, is when you have a city asset that feels emotionally like ours, and a city or municipality works with a third party company, and it feels walled off, where it's like, oh, well, we used to could host a community play there. Now it's so expensive we can't do that, and this company has to make money and generate funds, and we need those as well. But having place for, community theater and engaging with nonprofits and that kind of stuff. Maybe even a board of or a committee of programming where, the community has input on how the programming of the facility evolves over time.
We can,
Yep, I just forwarded it to you again, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Street?
Perfect. Thank you.
Where,
So an idea to accomplish what Alan's talking about is potentially like putting in something as far as like community impact or community engagement as a weight criteria to the actual final piece. The original RP to what we're talking about now, the only thing I saw, which is what I gave feedback, I think Keith is referencing, is that the financial components weren't weighted heavily enough and just in my read. And obviously the more that we have to carry as a city for this programming, the more challenge that makes to the budget as well as our Parks and Rec department. And so, if there's a way to engage in a way that's like, hey, this is the financial component, but these are this is the community impact that we're doing, amount of reserve dates, or, whatever that may look like for that person in their programming. I know that there's some that are very disciplined in their approach. So if you put something in there that's like, oh, we want to see, a month of community theater, that may not work on if there's a touring schedule that's going with it. What may be a better way to accomplish is we want to see X amount of community events, each year, or we'll weight it based upon how we feel your community engagement is, if that makes sense.
yeah,
I would be
Mr.
much.
Stranger?
Yeah, I'd rather us not try to get into what does the thing look like and just say that there's, say, 10 events throughout each year that the city can step in and say, this is what we'd like to see. We create our own internal mechanism for that. But yeah, so in my remarks back, I had created a section in the Martin Theater Management and Operations draft under the license requirement. So I created one called Insurance and Risk Allocation that kind of covers down on how much insurance they should have, whatnot. But then it says that the operator has exclusivity for booking except for up to 10 city hosted events per year. And so I think that would kind of cover down on what we're looking for, which is reserves the right for the city to use its own asset for 10 events out of the year.
May I suggest we do that as 10 event days, because I want the operator to be clear, we're not looking to host 10 3-day events.
Yeah, that's fine. I mean, this is the sausage making, so
Yeah.
That way it's not, oh, you had it for an hour, that was an event.
Yeah. I will say early on, probably prior to this commission, we talked about maybe moving all of our public meetings down there, the commission meetings, CRA meetings. We started kind of looking into some, furniture, like a kind of a dais that would roll and roll out. We eventually came to the conclusion that just, it really wasn't feasible, and that would really conflict with the overall operation of the Martin Theater. And so, so weird the way Zoom shuffles everyone all the time. And so my question would be, that's kind of our view now, is that we will not utilize that for our official commission meetings. Does everyone concur with that, or do any of the elected officials think that we should still look into the feasibility of using the Martin Theater for our the official business meetings where we vote every month?
I don't necessarily see us as entertainment, so I'd like to stay where we are. So
that's the consensus now. So
to me, if it's unused, that's one thing. But I mean, obviously, I don't want to interfere with actually programming, if that makes sense. So maybe that's how to phrase it, is like, hey, if it's unused, we can use it. If not, then we don't. So
and I think for special events, I think that's fine. But we have been, in my opinion, fairly critiqued in the past for kind of moving our business meetings around. That's why we stick to the same location at the same times. And if you guys are actually going to be voting on something, we try to be consistent with that. So that would be my only concern, Commissioner Street, is that if it's here one month and then back at the county
Yeah.
building the next. So I just,
agree
and
with
again,
that.
I mean, if you think like the type of, the work setting up and tearing it down. So, all right, Mr. Mayor, you have your hand back up.
Yeah, I just wanted to. I don't want the city commission meetings at the Martin Theater. I think the audience will feel disconnected. The citizens who attend will feel disconnected from the conversations that we're having on the stage. I think it's just a bad look and
Yep.
creates apprehension. The second point is, and I don't know if this goes in the RFP, but I've been to other amphitheaters and other venues where the event staff are often community members who are there for fundraising opportunities. Here's what I mean. I was at Alpharetta, Georgia's amphitheater a couple years ago, and I noticed the bartenders were like wearing local high school marching band shirts. And I was like, are you guys part of a band? And they're like, oh, we're band parents. And we run the bars at Alpharetta's amphitheater. And that's how we generate money for our programs. I was like, well, that's interesting. And I don't think that has to be codified in an RFP, but I am interested in hearing any organization of like, hey, here's how we involve ourselves in the community to help, fund the arts or fund different programs through mechanisms like this by having open community days where you can host an event and help start an event, or we volunteer opportunities or earning opportunities for local booster clubs. I think those are all very interesting. I don't know if they have to be in the RFP or not, but I'm interested in hearing more if the organization is interested in talking about it.
All right, Commissioner Lucas, a lot of you have your hands up, but she hasn't spoken yet. Go ahead, Commissioner Lucas.
So, thank you. I like the idea, Alan, that you're talking about ways that community-based organizations, parent clubs could fundraise through this, but I do think it should be in the RFP in some way, not spring it on them after they've gotten the RFP. I don't know if we want to phrase, dark nights, that we don't want, more than X% of dark nights where the theater is just not active or used at all. And being able to have a professional company put all the moving parts together is something that we want. But I think anything that we're thinking now, that we find a way to put it in there in the RFP.
Yes, ma'am. I think that should go into the community impact piece, and we can cite Alan's example and just see how often and how willing they'd be able to do that. So I don't want to be too specific. I'd like them to kind of tell us, like, these are the things we can do, and so we can properly weight those with the respondents, if that makes sense.
Yeah. All right, it keeps moving you guys around, so I'm just kind of going in order left to right. Commissioner Street?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. That's a great point for community impact or engagement. That section in its weighted and criteria could include anything from, hey, you're involving other nonprofits, you providing so many, free movie nights or those things. Let the operator decide what that engagement looks like. But if they're smart, obviously they're going to take into consideration, whatever we're communicating right now are things that are important to us. But, obviously you're not going to have a band operating the bar, but a parent might, I don't know. so
the parents, not the students.
Yeah,
the parents,
so,
not the students.
But I think that's what I envision with community engagement and community impact is, if the facility was fully leased with, out of town events, but there's 10 nonprofits that are getting support from operating as ushers and those kind of things for the event. I don't think that's a bad thing. I mean, that's a huge community impact. I would say the same vice versa. If there's, 10 days, 20 days, 30 days, 40 days a year that are dedicated to some type of open, thespian thing or something like that, I mean, that's a win. So I think whoever the operator and what their specialty is, I think could shape it as long as we're weighting the community engagement and impact appropriately. And so maybe in our final one, that should be ranked at like maybe 10% is based upon just that.
And before we go to Commissioner Hughes, I just want to let you know that the Gia Del Pazo that entered is Gia. She's our new purchasing manager, so she is city staff. So go ahead, Commissioner Hughes.
A couple of things. Am I crazy to think that we can do this and we have a paid for building and we are receivers of revenue share? We pay no taxes. They pay all the expenses, whoever that operator is. Is that insane to think that we would not participate financially other than making some repairs or something? That's first thing. And then second is, having raised a musician, they're creative and bounce, think a little differently. And I think limiting like what they have to do, or I like the weighted thing that Josh was talking about. Let them think of ways to tell us that's the best way to do it. Because the beginning of this of their qualifications, if they're really qualified and have done this before, I bet they've got some really good ideas that we're not thinking of that include not-for-profits, giving back to the community. We're music, so is that, if doing something with concerts, maybe do they give to the schools have been gutted from their music departments? Let them tell us, is that a usual way to do it? Again, never been through an RFP, and if you wait it, maybe that they have a good surprise for us, and that bring them across the finish line. Is that?
So to answer the first part of your question, Keith Medford and I ran over to Pensacola a while back, and I need to do this with Keith Myrle. And we visited the operator of the Sanger Theater. Granted, it's a little bit bigger, and they've got a partner down the street with Seduxo Marriott and their catering business with the Pensacola Civic Center. But explaining to them what we're doing with the Martin Theater, they saw a lot of interest in it. They are sending roughly $400 some odd thousand annually back to the city of Pensacola when I last met with them. And it's because they've now opened full service bars and concessions. And they have event space that they lease out, albeit much bigger than what we'll have. But they like the opportunity to have kind of a 3-in-1 event space. So we did speak with them about how their agreement with the city of Pensacola works. So any profits that they receive above and beyond their operating expenses, they reserve back a portion of those. I want to say it's 20%, but this was a couple of years ago. My memory's fuzzy. And then the remainder of that goes to the city of Pensacola. And it's a direct cash infusion into their general fund, and it helps support operations for their parks department
and maintenance.
And well, the 20% or 25% they hold back goes into a maintenance fund for the building and for capital improvements. So,
yeah. All right, Commissioner Granger.
Yes, so Alan, I was glad you kind of brought that up because I've done that before at NMSU. I was stationed out in New Mexico. Done ushering, sold cups, did all that. But I think one of the issues specifically with bartending and ushering, that kind of thing, is that it's almost always tip based, and that's how they're making their money, is off of tips. And you have to have a large amount of people to go through that in order to make it worth anybody's time to, because you're spending all night and you make $10 in tips. It's not exactly a situation that a lot of people are going to return to. But I do agree with I think Commissioner Street and Commissioner Hughes were kind of talking about just generally putting it in there that we'd like to see what they have. I think that's probably the better way to go, is to say, hey, this is a concern of ours. How would you meet it, and let them decide based on their experience how they would answer that.
Awesome. Thank you, Commissioner. Mr. Mayor.
So speaking as a bar owner, and this is one reason why I advocated for the upstairs kitchen, there was a conversation of, is it a catering kitchen? Is it a kitchen? Who should build it out? And I hopefully we're not building it out, because to me, this company should be looking at that second story that faces, 4th Street as its own full-time bar / restaurant. And if that's the case, they should build that kitchen out accordingly to what they want to serve there. And there's no reason why that entity, separate from the events as a standalone business, doesn't do anywhere from 1.6 to $3.5 million by itself. And so touching on Robbie's comments and Jared's comments, this entity should not need cash influx from us to operate. What I would want to see is what Pensacola has, is they're contributing back to us, because they're getting a $32 million facility. And what I want to see us make sure we do that money is looking at long-term maintenance of the roof and the ACs. And so when the AC breaks in 10 years, we don't go, well, where does that $1 million come from? We have it. And there's no, piecing together an inferior product where in 10 years, us or someone else in these positions aren't going, well, we can't afford the roof. We're doing a patch job on the roof. And we're having the same sort of issues like were discussed previous to the hurricane, which was the roof leaking and other things. And so no cash infusion from us to this organization, quite the opposite. It should be coming back to us. And if they run it as separate bars and restaurants, it will make money.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Commissioner Street? You're muted, sir.
Same comment, just to echo it. 2 things. One, out of everybody that I've heard that's had interest in operating the Martin Theater, and granted, these are random conversations from all people that just know we're doing this amazing facility. No one has said that there doesn't need to be a restaurant in there. So I don't know where that goes. So I don't know if we don't finish off a portion of this and we leave it to the next partner. I don't know how that works, but there is currently just a warming kitchen, if I recall, in these plans. And I would hate for us to go and do a project and then have it ripped out. But I agree from what Alan's saying. I don't think we have to put any money into it. I think we should be asking what money they're going to put into it. And you might find it can lower, if we get them in early enough, it could lower your construction cost. Because, I mean, if I'm making that kind of investment, I find it very hard to believe that we've anticipated everything that an operator would need in the facility. So I would suggest we get them in earlier than later before we finish the project.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right now, just to let you know where the building is from a mechanical, electrical, plumbing standpoint, plumbing has been roughed in. To my knowledge, kitchen equipment, warming kitchen equipment, all those things have not been ordered. We've got soda chases run for vending, and we've done this to the building. So if we get an agreement with one soda company or the other, we can kind of do both in the future. So if we sign one for 5 years and 5 years down the road, the operator wants to switch, we can pivot in that direction.
Hey, but we're not doing that, are we, Jared? We're not picking who.
No, sir.
Okay.
No,
yeah.
I'm telling you, the buildings.
Yeah, flexibility.
So
flexibility.
The building's being designed so it can accommodate both, so we can be flexible over time. It's not being designed for any one particular vendor. But I will say, I've got a meeting with the owner team tomorrow afternoon, and I'll have this conversation with them and get an update on where we are with, and I can tell you where we are with the Tennessee house. Is we've formed up the walls. We've got plumbing and chases for electrical and IT and everything else. I do know there's if natural gas is required, we may have a problem, but I think that's and Alan can better speak to that. We may be able to go.
You will have a problem if you don't get gas, I would assume. That's like a huge restaurant need.
I realize that. So I'll talk to the builder team, see what modifications we can make, and go from there. And I'll get an update to y'all through Mr. Hayes.
Commissioner Hughes, your hand's up, sir.
Yes, sir. So I was talking to a guy the other day, and he said, "Would it about the warming kitchen?" He said, "Bad idea. Would it be okay if private money built out a kitchen?" I said, "Yeah, that'd be great because public money, I think, is not." So when we have a problem with that, if somebody's in their RFP said, "I'm going to build a kitchen out," if that's not included in the ask, again, never done it before. First thought, and then second is when we talked about what we're not gonna like on the drinks. I say we not exclude anything, let them tell us what they'd like on the front side, whether it's drinks or food or whatever. But I'm glad to hear too that all y'all like that we're not putting any money in that and people want to do this, but they see places that I think they can make an impact and help us make more money with their investment as well. So I like that idea.
And I needed to be clear about something else. The natural gas, there is natural gas to the building. I just don't know if it's plumbed to that warming kitchen. So I need to just confirm that.
That's a
Yeah.
that's a lighter lift
Yeah.
than no gas to the building. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Thank you for clarifying that, sir. Mr. Mayor, your hands up, sir.
Yeah, there are a few kitchen models. Well, let me start over. I would say getting the plans that we have for the concession areas and bar areas and kitchen areas to these people as soon as possible, and potentially even holding back equipment purchases until when you're designing someone's bar and concessions, you're designing their menu. And really, you should be designing the spaces with your menu first, and then you design your space, because you may say, "Oh, I need more soda areas here, more wells here, more ice here." And what I don't want to do is, like Josh said, is them having to rip out areas because they see the same spaces doing different things than what we are predicting, or that we have predicted a generic layout and they're having like a more I want 3 specialty cocktails versus a whole open bar, full bar, as an example. And so I think you're hearing a lot of consensus that there's so much that when you build a structure that you're dictating how the business operates, and there's some of that we have to do with seating capacity and the stage, but in the bar and concessions and kitchens areas, we should be slowing down our decision making and offloading that to our potential partner for them to be designing on their behalf, not us to be designing on their behalf. That makes sense. So you're hearing that same sort of consensus with drinks and sodas. Like, we shouldn't be predicting if they're serving Pepsi or Coke. We shouldn't be telling them that. We shouldn't be telling them that if they get a warming kitchen versus a full kitchen, they may come in and say, "I want a range hood. Before you finish the roof, I want to put a range hood through this thing." And so we want to get our partners to weigh in on what they want in those areas as soon as we can.
Okay.
Is there a floor plan that you like your idea? Is there a floor plan that we can send out?
there'll
Because
be-
they're going to want to know what it looks like inside without taking a tour. I would
Is that the
guess.
addendum?
Yeah,
That was the second attachment, Commissioner Hughes, that kind of showed what it looked like, and that will be part of our bid documents for sure.
It wasn't in
So-
the draft, but it will be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
So
didn't send that out.
I want to make sure I'm kind of knee deep into the construction process now, but I want to make sure I want to level set some expectations too. So the building's designed, and I realize, like, if I can, and Alan help me here, because I want to try and meet what you're asking for. It's not all the way constructed yet. Obviously, the plumbing is where the plumbing is, but what I think I can do to accommodate what you're asking for, Alan, is just hit pause on all the fixtures for the bar area, the warming kitchen area, the back of house stuff, all of those things, so the owner operator can go, to a degree, build out and install those pieces of equipment as they see fit for their menu offerings. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah, that and the sooner we get to our partner, the layout, and we choose a partner, and the faster that they can say, "Well, before you put the roof on, let me pay for a range hood because I really want the range hood. I don't want to have to rip through your brand new roof structure." Or,
Yeah.
"Oh my goodness, I want a floor sink is actually a floor drain. They call it a floor sink." They may say, "Oh, I wish I had 2 floor sinks here, not this one." Or, "Oh, I wish this was a mop closet versus the kitchen." So like I would not be rushing to close up walls and things like that in the kitchen and bar area, and because you can still make some infill adjustments. But what you don't want to do is go past a certain point where the person hasn't weighed in on. Gosh, it'd be great if there was another 2 outlets here versus closing the whole wall up. So I'm
So
excited.
we just want to leave it maximum flexibility.
Correct.
Got it.
All right, Commissioner Lucas.
So I'd like us to consider a discounted rental structure for local nonprofits, education, institution, community cultural organizations. I think asking them to build that into their proposal, not saying what that discounted rate should be, but making it accessible for our performing arts and cultural community to actually lease the space to do some of the programming along with the, because we've asked them to make space and allowance for that in the RFP.
All right.
And we can put that in the community impact piece as well.
Yeah. Yep. All right. It jumped around. I think Commissioner Hughes was next.
On the attachment that I have, it doesn't have a floor plan. It has a description of the Martin Theater. It's a 1,500 square foot reception area. I was kind of talking about more like the layout.
That's my mistake. When I said description, I misspoke. It's a description of the building, but yeah, with the plans themselves will be a part of the bid documents, and we're happy to send those out to you guys as well in advance.
Okay, so they will be able to have that. All right, good.
Yes, now we will need to distinguish the plans are complete as designed, but we will make, after talking to the construction team tomorrow, we will make adjustments to, caveat that the kitchen build outs, the back of house stuff may be unfinished for operator build out.
And I would imagine, Keith and Sean, one thing that we will do is, in that 60 days that it's open, we'll set up a site visit,
Yes.
For folks that want to come. We'll probably even do two, maybe one 2 weeks out and one 4 weeks out, so that folks can come through and kind of see the facility. And that's the kind of thing that we would do for sure as part of that. I mean, we did it prior to getting the construction bid as well. So I'm gonna flag Sean in a second here, but Commissioner Street's hand just went. Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, so I was just going to add to what Alan was saying is I'd say the same thing with the offices. I mean, that's how they function. It's not how we function. And so I think anything you can leave unfinished, undone on the components that are the actual workings of the business model for the Martin Theater should be left unfinished. I mean,
to be clear, that's the top floor of the Ritz.
Yeah. And when we walked through it that time, we talked about that already because, I mean, we don't know their office layout, and office layout may be different. Maybe they don't need office layout. Maybe they need storage. Maybe they need something else. Maybe they need cold storage. Yeah. One of the things I'll say from the design as it exists today is you don't have a lot of storage areas. You don't have a lot of, the functionings of what actually makes money. They look very nice, but there's still probably a lot of back of house that is not taken into because it wasn't designed by a restaurateur. It wasn't designed by a bar owner. It wasn't designed by an actual operator. So I think anything you can leave unfinished in that and engage it in this process, it's only going to save both sides money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
that's fair.
Yeah, thank you. So one thing I would like, Sean, if you could just briefly speak to, ensuring everyone that we are going to cast a wide net. Talk a little bit about Bonfire. And how we feel very confident that we're going to cast a very wide net on people being able to respond to this RFP.
Okay, of course. Bonfire itself is our main portal that we post our bids on. It's nationwide. There's over 500 public agencies registered with them. There's over 250,000 registered vendors across North America. It is global as well, but of course, it's more of an emphasis here in North America. We also post on obviously the city's website, the county's website. We contact the Office of Supplier Development for the state of Florida and ask them to also post it on theirs. And what we've done in cases in the past, and the mayor, I know we talking a little bit about as we get closer to marinas and things like that. If there are individual companies that we want to make aware, as Jared said, he had visited some previously. While we won't give any preference to anyone, what we will do is send an email to those groups and notify them and say that this bid is about to go out a week from now, or it's going out today. And we just wanted to flag you in case you had interest in this particular RFP with the city. Right now, date wise, if we can get all this wrapped up before the end of this month, and Keith, you can speak to that, but I feel like we probably can based on the feedback we're getting here. We're looking at having that pre-proposal meeting, a couple weeks into April, cutting off questions 1st of May, getting this closed on the 1st of June, and getting it to you guys for some evaluations at that point. I think part of that whole plan holder process and RFIs and stuff is where we're going to submit all of those plans that you're talking about so that people can see exactly what they're looking at. But again, we'll also bring that up at the pre-proposal meeting where we bring people together and we can discuss any questions they have whatsoever and try to address those concerns before they start developing their bid.
Awesome. Thank you, Mr. Self. Commissioner Hughes, your hand's up, sir. Go ahead.
Yes, sir. Thank you. When y'all are talking about not finishing the offices or the bar, is that so that a proposer says, "Here's my idea," and then we go in and finish it that way? Or, hey, I like the setup how you had it, and so y'all can finish it that way? Is that what we're talking about? Or
I think my understanding is it's the leasee or it would be they could build the suit for themselves. Now what in my mind from a construction management standpoint, it would be a value engineer for us, and we would pull it back out of the contract as a deductive change order. Now that's worst case scenario. If we get the vendor on board, then they can help us make those decisions. And if it's FEMA reimbursable, it's no skin off of the local cost share piece of it. It just depends what those things are. So I think,
okay, is that standard to ask a proposer to do build out, or is it standard to have it already completed? Again, never done it before.
I can't answer the question.
Mr. Self? You're muted, sir. There you go.
Yeah, I just wanted to relate to, and it's obviously apples to oranges a little bit, but when we went out for RFPs for managed parking, part of the discussion with that was the city did not want to spend, city funding to get this project up and running. So the agreement with them was, it's the revenue sharing would increase over a course of time. And the reason for that was to give the company who was taking the contract the ability to expend their capital to put all the infrastructure in place. It might be the same situation where you may be in year 1 and 2, they may be less revenue coming to the city in a situation like this, but in years 3, 4, 5, that increases because they paid for their infrastructure at that point. So you're kind of allowing them to spend that money up front, but then from that point on, that cost is not there, and then they should be obviously committing more to the city.
Thank you. Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I was going to touch on that, and specifically with Robbie, with the offices. Right now, there are 2 little offices. They may want 3 little offices or 1 big office, and we don't want them ripping it out. I don't care if they pay for it or we pay for it. Either way, we're technically paying for it because they're going to probably pull back on their revenue share with us. I don't want any more change orders. I'm scanning through the document, different time. I'm scanning through the document as we're driving. I just now saw that email, my mistake. But what I do get a lot of people right now, there's probably 4 different groups right now in Panama City that are hitting me with emails wanting to, I want to run the Martin Theater. And I tell them, like, hey, you got to have a lot of money to start this thing up. Like, to even start a little tiny bar is staff training and uniforms and liquor. The little tiny bar we started was $30,000 in liquor. So to start the Martin Theater as a company, you're pre-booking events, you're paying utility. I mean, it is glassware. I mean, this organization, hopefully there's mechanisms in this RFP where you're having to prove out that you have the financial means to start up the Martin Theater, and you have the cash available, and you understand what that means from a lift of training people. And this shouldn't be, I mean, people can have great ideas, but I don't want to sign someone who can't get the project, off the runway.
All right. Mr. Zimmerman, anything you want to share after all of these great questions and feedback?
Great questions and feedback. No, I think that all those things can be addressed. I've taken notes. I know Keith has taken notes. But I think that one point that the mayor made, which is that this is obviously primarily a theater, but it's also a restaurant, or it's also a lounge, and it's also a community event banquet hall. So those are important issues to evaluate from any proposer that makes a proposal. So I think we need to make sure the RFP reflects it. I think it does somewhat now, but we may want to relook and fine tune that.
Yeah, Commissioner Hughes.
So to that point, Alan, so if somebody they're a programmer, they're out there bringing acts in, whether they're plays, concerts, they can sub out in this contract. They're allowed to subcontract to vendors. And I didn't. I'm trying to read and keep the dogs quiet. Is that doesn't have to be approved by us, as long as that subcontract, as long as that guy is making the payment or whatever it is, it's who he's okay with. So, and if I'm in the liquor business but not in the programming business, do I have to support? Do I have to provide anything for the city to be okay in the RFP? Is that a requirement?
I would think that would be a Nevin and Sean and question. I don't know if that's because I don't know the dynamic of promoters booking shows at venues or how that works. So someone else can better answer that.
Okay.
I mean, that's how it worked at the Civic Center to a degree. Like Bay Arts Alliance, what ran the building day to day. They had their program season, and then they would lease that facility out for a variety of programming, whether it be dance competitions or private promoters bringing acts to town. So I would imagine that's similar to what Mr. Hughes is talking about.
Yeah. Go ahead, Mr. Self.
Just to clarify, Commissioner Hughes is correct. There is caveats in the RFP to allow for subcontractors, but the actual submitter, the proposer for this project, is responsible for all of that. So we do ask up front that they ask for us to give us a list of the subcontractors if they already know which ones they're going to use, just so that we can kind of vet those. It's not 100% requirement because they may not know exactly which one they're going to use. We've had some in the past that had 2 or 3 on standby, but they still have, to meet the expectations of the proposal. If their subcontractor does not do that or does not perform, we do have the ability to cure that agreement.
Mr. Mayor?
So I wanted to kind of clearly state, people ask me like, what do you want to see with the Martin Theater and what do you want to see? And so I want to clearly state what I see is no cash injection, the opposite. They're giving us part of their revenue. And then I want to see lots of the ability for community organizations to use the facility. I'd like to see, and I want to avoid the situation. I don't know, Josh might remember this. When I first came downtown in 2017, I wanted to rent the Martin Theater for just like a Mary Poppins, and like, let's do a $1 movie night on a Tuesday when no one's using the thing. And I went to North Star and said, "Well, you guys paid to license it," and they're like, "Yeah, we can totally do that." And then I went to the management company who runs the Martin. They said, "Yeah, but like, who's going to pay for the maintenance of the facility? We have so many people in here." And so, like, I wanted to be clear. I want the Martin Theater to drive 2,000 people a week downtown. It can be Mary Poppins on a Tuesday for $1. Sell popcorn, make the money off popcorn. I want to see lots and lots of people, and the organization needs to make money. I understand that, and we need to pay for deferred maintenance. But what I don't want to see is a facility that's used every other week for some big act, or every 6 weeks for some big act, and it's closed the rest of the time. That's not what I want to see. I want to see a Martin Theater that's open all the time for events, and we blow the hinges off this thing.
And that's where local partnerships come into play. That's right. And I'm with you, Alan. I mean, it's for everybody. The big acts, whether they're every 6 weeks or whatever, they bring in, they bring people in, but we want to be able to help the businesses downtown by having people there on the regular, coming in and coming early and late. So I agree.
Yep. Commissioner Lucas, go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, thank you. I too agree. Alan, you're getting quite a consensus here from folks today. But yes, bringing in the folk to downtown and variety of folks and making it available. So in the contract, we can, the RFP, we can give some range that we'd like to see national touring, but at X percentage of the shows or whatever. Give them some quantifiable way of looking at what they bring in and what we're expecting as a community.
Have you seen it go so far as to have them present a proposed programming schedule for a certain period of time?
Mhm. Yep.
I mean, would that be acceptable as far as some criteria that either could be weighted under the community impact and engagement section?
I like that. I mean, at least it at least tells people what their expectation of the live launch theater would be, how it would be used. I don't know how we contractually get them to do it that way. Again, I don't want to turn around and see a Martin Theater that's rarely used.
Yeah.
And to me, a failure would be, yeah, the organization makes money, we make money, but it's rarely ever used. That's not what I want to see.
Yeah. Commissioner Street?
Yeah, so one of the things that you can do, we've done leases before where there's a minimum hour of operations requirement. You'll see this a lot of times in malls where you have people that go in and it's vital that things stay active in order to get the actual benefit that you're trying to get by drawing people into the mall. So we could do a minimum amount of days that it has to be programmed, and by that's naturally going to drive the events that you're talking about, Alan and Janice. If they have to operate at 200 days a year, there has to be programming, or 250 days a year, whatever that day is. That's automatically going to mean they're going to have to fill in gaps with local programming, with nonprofit programming, with movie nights, those kind of things, to keep the activity basis. So how you would measure the activity quotient is like, how many nights a year will there be programming? And that could be a weighted criteria inside of that community engagement factor. Because the reality is, if they're not using it, we're not making money, they're not making money. But there also needs to be an encouragement to be active.
Could I ask one last question on that? So you talked about, leases with minimum hours of operation. I'd like to throw in, our entertainment districts. I mean, bars can be open till 4 a.m. year round. Is that something like, I think there's a big profit center to be had on that second floor bar on the Ritz. And Alan, I defer to you, like, should we define maximum operational hours?
No, I think those, again, if they're looking at those profit centers in the right way, those are open with a different schedule than the events. Like
Right.
they're open on.
That's what I'm saying is we could define what our local service hours are for alcohol, and just noting it's, I think it's 7 a.m. to 4 a.m. and just put that in there, like as a maximum window to show how open we are.
Be careful with, be careful with overdoing it with the hours of minimum operation. That's meant to set a floor for you. Not a good operator is going to operate well beyond those. You're trying to protect yourself from having what Alan described. 6 events a year. Yeah, they make a ton of money, but it's dead space the rest of the time. So the most language that you should put in there is how many nights a year And I'm not even saying we should set the minimum. We should have them tell us
Yes.
how many nights of year that they will be active. You know, the same thing could go with the bars, like what are going to be your hours of operations, you know, like that, like those things. But you don't want to take a hard piece because, you know, there may be things that come out seasonal. I don't know, but anyway,
Well,
just
remember,
be
none of
careful
us
with
are
that.
operators. We're all,
Yeah.
and so and to your point, the more you put in there that requires and restricts, well, you
Right.
might take some of the people out, but they're creative. They're doing this for a living. Let them tell
Yeah,
us.
so-
And I agree. Telling them too much is
To be
harder
clear,
for
I
them
was just
to make a
letting know
deal
what-
work with us. And
I
we
think I was-
created the problem by doing
Yeah,
that.
I think I was trying to get, like, should I just include the maximum operational hours by ordinance we allow service, and just as a definition, not as a requirement?
Or how about giving them the downtown, the social district rules and regs and letting them understand what they're operating in rather than
Yeah.
a restriction or a
even-
I like-
requirement.
We
Yeah.
can
That's
include
even
the map.
better.
We should
Yeah.
include the
Include the
social
social
district
district
map.
map.
That's a great idea.
Yeah, what
even
I
better.
wouldn't want to do is this organization think that I, as a local bar and restaurant owner, would be apprehensive of them running the facility like a bar and restaurant. I don't. I think it would be amazing. They should feel encouraged to run it
Yes.
to the best of their abilities, not that they're trying to work them.
Mr. Self?
I love Josh, yeah, like a mall.
I think one of the things you're going to see as this progresses too, a lot of the things that you're bringing up right now are going to be driven through those RFI processes. They're going to come at us with a lot of these questions too. We can obviously put as much information in there as possible, but I do agree a little bit with Robbie. You don't have to dial down quite so far on some of the things because they're going to ask those questions because they're going to want to maximize the revenue they can get for this facility, and that's the only way to work for them. They'll drive some questions that we probably won't even think of, but when they bring them up, we can answer them, of course. And so I think it would give you a situation to address from the expert, so to speak, is exactly what they need. We'll hear a lot of very specific questions that I think we can answer for.
Yeah. Mr. Self, for the benefit of the public, you used an acronym RFI. Can you just explain that briefly?
It's a request for information. It's basically anyone who is submitting a bid, a proposal, an RFQ, whatever the case may be. They have a certain amount of time to ask any questions they want. And so we try to provide them that information because when you put out a proposal, you think you've got everything in there that they could possibly think of. And sometimes there's a minor issue. There may be a minor issue that becomes a major issue. And the person who's done that work over and over will bring it to the forefront, ask us a question for it. We can answer that so that when they submit a bid, it's an accurate bid, because what we don't want is to not answer their questions, because then you get a bid that they pad because they don't know what the answer is going to be, or they submit a bid that won't work. And one of the other things I wanted to mention, and I think Mr. Zimmerman can back this up. Obviously, as these proposals come in and they're ranked, you're not locked into the first one on the list. We can sit down and have a conversation with this group and negotiate a contract, and they may say 150 days a year, you want 175, whatever the case may be. And we have a chance to actually alter that to get it to what it needs to be for the city overall. So there'll be an opportunity to negotiate with them to get exactly what it is you guys need. And so I think in some of those cases, some of those will be answered as we go along.
Thank you. Commissioner Hughes?
On the RFIs, the addendums. So is that during the cone of silence? If they're asking that, I'd like to know what questions they're asking. Is that something that we have access to, or we just need to check on as they're online? How does that work, Sean?
Well, the process works is anyone who is a plan holder gets sent every single document we supply to anyone. So if one company asks for a document, every company gets that document. If someone asks questions, we share the answers to every company, because a lot of times they all have similar questions, or they may not have thought to ask the question. So we do that through the addendum process, and those are all posted publicly as we do them. The RFI process itself is just, it gives them all a chance to ask those questions. Some they ask in person at the pre-proposal meetings. Sometimes they ask them as they go along. And so the cone of silence basically means that once the bid hits the street, we're not giving out information to anyone that doesn't directly come through purchasing. In this particular one, it would be Johnny Gallegos that's taking care of that for us. It'll all funnel directly through him. He'll get the answers from whatever staff, whether it be Keith or anyone involved in the city who's making the decisions for that. And so you have that one contact that gives that information out. Reason being is if someone were to email, let's say Keith individually and ask a question, Keith in his best efforts is going to answer the question. The problem with that is we didn't give that question's answer to everyone. So that's why we asked for it to come through purchasing. One person handles it, they get all the answers, and they provide all the answers to everyone.
One thing, Commissioner,
Thank you.
one thing on that topic, and Sean's staff does an excellent job. When they have the meetings, the pre-meetings where the proposers come and ask questions, get a tour, minutes are taken of those meetings. And then the minutes are public, and then they're provided online, kind of like an addendum to the RFP. So from a city commissioner's perspective, you can monitor, and we can make sure that you have access. You monitor any requests for more information, the answers, the minutes of the meeting that the bidders have. And then any questions you have, you just talk to the city manager and he'll be able to get you answers on that.
Any other? Go ahead, Commissioner Street. Your hand's up.
No, I wanted to ask if we could, does everybody feel like we've exhausted this particular issue? Because I do have one thing I wanted to bring up here at the very end for discussion.
Yeah, I think I know a few people have stuff at 6, so I know, yeah. Yeah, I think, everybody good with the Martin Theater? All right. Sure. Go ahead, Commissioner Street.
I know everybody's received the letter from Ross Clemens regarding the rescue mission. My apologies. I thought tonight we were talking about housing stuff, but I guess that wasn't the case because of the timeliness of this. But there is one thing that's kind of time sensitive that would be good for us to at least have a consensus. Are we willing to explore this? And that is the use of the Juvenile Justice Building for a public safety facility. We haven't been able to talk about it. So for some backstory, we talked about this about 3 or 4 years ago. At that point in time, it didn't make sense. Chief brought it back up, I guess, about 8 months ago, going into this budget season. And now it's come back up again with the potential location of the rescue mission. So I think it's probably prudent for us to at least engage with the county on what it might look like for that facility. I'm not saying that's what we're gonna do, but to at least start the steps of getting some kind of parameters, because for all I know, they want $5 million for it, or it could be a thing of, hey, take over the payment. I don't know what that looks like, but I'd like to have some answers so that we can kind of, at least explore it.
Oh, you saying move the police station over there?
Yeah, that's what's been discussed.
Right.
You can't move all of it, but
Right,
you
well,
could move the main building.
Well, the email that he wrote suggested that we've been seriously considering it. I'm like, okay. And what do you mean you can't move all of it?
The impound lot, the gun range, like you can't move that into
Okay.
a residential neighborhood. But the administration facilities, as well as whatever public safety needs we have, that could very much relocate to that. And I have no idea on the cost. I just know this is now the 3rd time where it's come up, and I think it's probably at least prudent that we actually get some hard, data for that. Since, how many times you're going to kick the tires before you actually define something, I guess.
I'll have you all the information on that building tomorrow circulated. How about that?
You'll have what, sir? I'm sorry, you
I'll
broke
get all
up.
the information on that building because it's for sale. I'll get all that and circulate it to you guys tomorrow. on the courthouse.
Yeah, so what I'm looking for, Robbie, is really a direct engagement with the county, because, you know, what the county would sell it to private market versus what they're willing to do in partnership with the city are probably two different things.
Understood. However, there's just about the building itself, so we know what we're
Yeah.
talking about versus, the price.
Oh, okay, I got you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
and it
that would be
does need
helpful.
work. They've stripped it down inside, so, and I was in it not too long ago. But yeah, I'll get that. Now, that also filters over to the idea of moving the mission out there. Is that right? Yeah, is that what
That could
later on to talk
potentially
about?
impact that. Yeah, it could. And,
Okay.
you know, I mean, I think Ross's biggest concern with, you know, moving a location for the men's shelter is, you know, at some point in time, he's operating multiple campuses. He'd like to operate one. Well, you know, it just so happened 8 months ago, the chief says, hey, we'd like to relocate, you know, I mean, so, you know, it could make sense. It might not, but, you know, until we've actually got some hard data to it. Now, I will tell you guys this, I think an appropriations request for a public safety facility, you know, that's probably a pretty reasonable ask from what seems to be funded. But, you know, that all depends on whether the numbers actually work.
Mr. Mayor?
I think it's a awesome idea. It combines. I was actually in the juvenile building on 11th Street 3 weeks ago. Very hard conversion to anything other than things like it is right now. Even if a church tried to buy it, it would take so if I think they're gonna have a hard time selling it unless it's for something like we're looking to use it for, is my point. And it would get it out of the county's hands. And so, yeah, I'd love to see staff start those conversations. I'd love to see if we made all those kind of things. That's super interesting and very clever.
Commissioner Lucas?
I'd like to see the feasibility of doing it. We already know that we can't move everything there. And splitting up the operations, whether that's feasible to do or not. And yes, I agree that the county may work with us, or will likely work with us differently than a private buyer. And it has been on the market for a long time. It's awkward building inside. I've walked through it since they put it on the market. And I just think we need to make sure that it can work well if we're going to pursue that option. And as far as Ross is concerned, I agree with Commissioner Street that the concern that Mr. Clemens has expressed to me is about having to create in another space what he already has over on Allen Avenue, and what it would cost him to do that, and staffing in 3 separate places or 2 separate places, because if he moves into the old police station, which I understand needs a lot of work itself. So there's just a lot of moving parts in this particular deal.
Mr. Mayor, your hand's back up, sir. Did we lose him? Oh. Mr. Mayor, you're muted if you're trying to speak.
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. Mr. Zimmerman, certainly you have a thought on this.
I agree with everyone. What I hear is that there's an interest in staff, making contact and getting good information and presenting it back to the city.
Yeah. It sounds like at a minimum, I'm happy to draft a letter of interest tomorrow and send it over to Mr. Schubert and start that conversation. I too have gone through the facility. It was several years ago. I agree with everything y'all said. It's been pretty stripped down, and it is a very, very unique facility. From an operation standpoint, though, I think having the impound lot and the shooting range a little bit down the road is not a deal breaker. And so, obviously would love to, have a broader conversation with the police chief on this. I think Commissioner Lucas made the point, but yeah, there are there are some challenges with the current building. It's not unsafe. We wouldn't have our employees in an unsafe building, but long term, that building, into the future is gonna become problematic. It does need some work, and it's been through a few major hurricanes over the last several decades, and so the juvenile justice courthouse is absolutely built more to standards, and is a little bit more centrally located as well, closer to downtown, closer to the center of the city, rather than all the way on the far east end. So I'm sure there's going to be some challenges to overcome, but there are some pluses as well. So it doesn't seem like there's any objection to me go ahead and sending in a letter of interest just to start that communication with Mr. Schubert at the county. We lose? Oh, I think we lost the mayor. Yeah. Go ahead, Commissioner Hughes.
The letter of interest does what for us? I mean, we can get the information, look at it, decide. I mean, are we sending an LOI? What's the purpose of the letter of interest?
It's instead of just everybody talking about things, it's formally communicating an interest to have the conversation and documenting that and initiating it. It's a common process amongst government agencies.
In my world, I would gather more information first from all of us. Right now, we like the idea. We've walked through it. I think I'd like to know more. I may learn some more about it and not have an interest in it. Can we maybe put that on to Monday? Let me get the information out, and I'd like to get it. I've already asked for it. And I don't know if that's not normal. Again, not done that before. Just ask.
Yeah, I think what I would say, and I would defer to Mr. Zimmerman. I mean, I'm happy to wait a few days. I mean, I don't know that everybody's been through it. I don't know that all 5 of you have been through it. I would say any information that you get, you should probably share it with either Mr. Zimmerman or myself to circulate to your colleagues, since this is something that you guys would be voting on down the road. Mr. Zimmerman, any thoughts on how to move forward in the next 4 or 5 days, sir?
Yeah. First of all, of course, we're not taking any action at this meeting. All we're talking about is the wisdom of the city manager and the city attorney spending some time getting this information together and telling the county, hey, we're interested in just looking at it, getting more information. And so it's not going to be a whole lot of time. I suspect there'll be an early report back to the city commission at a city commission meeting with some basic information about the feasibility of if it would even work for a police department operations, some ideas as far as the cost, just some overall notions before the city staff really spends a whole lot of time. I view this as just the city manager and city attorney doing our jobs as far as, inquiring, but we don't want to inquire if we know that there's absolutely no interest. I hear there's a little interest, and so I think it makes sense to inquire. That's essentially what we're doing.
Yeah. And I agree with Mr. Zimmerman, and we could talk about it Tuesday at the end of our commission meeting, kind of provide some of the preliminary information, whether what Mr. Zimmerman and I provide and what any of y'all get as well. During we have my first meeting of every month. We do the projects and tasks and efforts update. And so that could be into that. Commissioner Lucas, your hand is up. Go ahead, ma'am.
Yes, I'd also like to have a walkthrough of the police station. I mean, I've been in both buildings, but walking through now with this idea certainly allows me a different perspective as I look around and begin to understand what the potential is in front of us for that. So would like to request both of those.
Yeah, I've only been to the police station for the wrong reason, so I'd like to go back in there as well to check it out. Yeah.
Well, I'm sure that was many, many years ago in your youth, Commissioner Hughes. It's changed a lot. So, Commissioner Street.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd add is, and part of the reason why bringing it up now is because it's been discussed now 3 times since 2021. I think is the first time this concept came to be. And so if there's any other data that you guys have got that I haven't seen. I mean, I never actually saw, like, I think I've seen floor plans, but I never actually saw any kind of formulated plan from the police department. So the last go around where, you know, there was this thought of separating the impound lot and the gun range from the actual facility. Well, that made me, you know, that makes more sense, obviously, than buying up residential homes to do an impound lot. That's not something that's going to be very well received, I don't think, by the neighbors. So
Absolutely not.
yeah. So if you guys have got any kind of like even rough draft of what the chief is thinking in those concepts, that would be good to see, because I've not seen any of that.
I don't believe we do. I'll check with Chief Smith.
Okay,
I do know
that's
that
fine.
when the county was planning on modifying the building, so that would be the new federal courthouse. They had done some initial demolition and
there
obviously
are
cleanup
plans for
after the
that.
storm, and there's plans for those. And so when you walk in the front doors of the building, there's like a mezzanine balcony that doesn't, it maybe goes like 2/3 of the way on the second floor and stops. So it overlooks the big lobby. And they had plans to close all that off and extend the second floor.
Like 3,000 square foot it would have added.
Yeah. So, but from a programmatic standpoint, like plugging and playing where our different division heads and departments would go, from whether it's the intel unit to crime scene to whatever it may be, we would have to really look at that. We may need to hire a consultant to help us, but certainly we can, just from a square footage needs standpoint, it does. If that mezzanine balcony were completed, it certainly would meet the needs of the police department for years to come versus where we're at right now, where we're, you know, kind of.
But that could be something that's done. But that could be something that's done in multiple phases, or
Correct.
Yeah.
So really, what I'm looking for something formally. Like, I've heard all sorts of numbers floated around over the county from years that until we engage, we're not going to get an actual number. We're not going to actually get, any of that stuff. So, I'm for either putting it on the next agenda. Let's discuss it at the end. But I'd like to push forward the idea, I guess. That doesn't mean I'm ready to say, hey, let's go do this. What it means is I'm saying, like, hey, I need more information than I've got today. And I think the only way we're going to get that is engaging with them directly.
All right.
One last thing.
Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Commissioner.
After we had our budget virtual workshop, and we talked about a plan for a recovery, like over a 5-year period, where you guys with looking at bringing something like that to us? Because when I look at the budget closely, where we're going to need to recover the reserve is in the biggest group, and that's the employees. And as I said then, I'm not advocating that we begin cutting employees and so forth, but there's a strategic way over a 5-year period to recover the reserve while looking at it from our biggest area.
Yeah, so that still is a work in progress. And as you know, the last Tuesday of the month, March 31st, last day of the month, we are going to be having a strategic, budget and priorities workshop here at City Hall. And it is our plan to start addressing that as part of a conversation and collaboration with the elected body at that time.
So you'll have something for us then, March 31st. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am. I don't know the degree to what specificity, but we will have that. We are going to have that conversation. We'll have something for us to start considering. Yes, ma'am. So, all right. Anybody else? All right. Well, hope everyone has a great rest of the week, and we will see you Tuesday at 8 a.m. For our first commission meeting of the month of March. Thanks, everybody.
Bye-bye.